What the hell? It's JLL, that Gnostic teacher on the internet. It's January 1st. Yes, it is indeed. 2018. Can you believe that? And I'm here to talk to you now in a way that I haven't done before. This talk, this upload, represents a turning point in all of the spoken and written material I have presented on the internet for going on about, 16, 17 years now. I'm here to talk to you today on the first day of this year about how to oppose and eliminate the enemies of life, about how to actually take them out. So be clear as you listen to me today that you're hearing something that you haven't heard before. You know, it's all well and good to talk, and I've talked a lot. I've talked, as much as anyone, and a good deal more than many people you find on the internet. Yeah, go look around, right? Hundreds of hours of words coming from John Lash, right? Interviews, Gaian navigation experiment talks, the nav briefings, and on and on and on. Today, on this particular day, I'm not just talking anymore. The talk that you hear now leads to action. And it is in itself a specific kind of action. It is a specific display of action and not mere words coming from me now. And what is that specific display of action? Well, you can call it threat display. I'm making a threat. Now, you may recall that I've said over the last few talks, and let me review in case you don't have the picture of continuity. I completed the 64 plus talks of the Gnostic investigation of the Mandela effect at the end of October, didn't I? And since then I've done about a dozen talks. So these talks that you've heard so far in November and December of 2017 are all working, building, and aiming in a particular direction. You recall that I used the word transhumanist as a generic term to describe those insane, life-hating freaks who are behind the AI robot Sophia, who are behind robotics, behind cloning, behind the elevation of artificial intelligence above human and natural intelligence, and so forth and so on. So transhumanist is a convenient term for this particular group of people who are centrally led by the Xenosh. The main transhumanists are Xenosh, and the seed of the transhumanist program can be found in the figure of Melchizedek, who is a superhuman or extrahuman agent in the narrative of the Jewish people. Well, I trust I've made all that pretty clear by now. There's a lot of background for you to cover if you want to know where I'm coming from. Some of you who follow these talks in continuity will see that I'm building toward something specific, and today is the moment to disclose exactly what that is. You'll note that I've also used the word apposition as a teaching tool to bring your attention to something which needs to be seen, something that needs to be, I don't like the word understood, it's kind of a cheap word, something you need to detect in the events unfolding in the world today, to discern and detect. So I use the word apposition simply as a cueing tool to direct your mind toward a phenomenon of parallelism. I've explained that the AI robot Sophia is the ambassador for the transhumanist movement. Who's behind that robot? Who's handling that robot? Who is speaking through that robot to the world? The Xenosh transhumanist cabal. They are the same cabal that is behind the planetary financial mafia, the same cabal that is behind the Masonic network of manipulation and subversion, which rules in many countries, the same cabal that is behind the Federal Reserve, the same cabal that finances wars. It's all the same. The enemy is one. To see the enemy, of course, is the first condition in fighting and winning any battle. If you're in a battle and you don't know who the enemy is, well, it's very unlikely that you're going to win that battle. I just might add, by the way, that one sure sign that you're looking in the direction of the enemy, if not seeing the enemy explicitly, is that you are not allowed, under the current conditions of authority and the mind control operating in the social order, to blame that particular enemy for anything. So you live in a world in which it is, in fact, forbidden to criticize or fault those who are truly the enemies of humanity, of the Rome, of Sophia, and of all that lives. I have expressed my view in this dozen or so talks since completing the investigation that the AI robot Sophia represents a threat. No matter how fascinating that device may appear, no matter how they may spin it, no matter how many theatrical setups they may produce to carry out the charm offensive that they are undertaking, the biophobic freaks behind AI have one intention and one only, and that is to threaten you with enslavement or extinction. So I take the AI robot Sophia as a threat. The appearance of that device and its use as a kind of ambassador for the transhumanist movement, I take as a deliberate and explicit threat coming from murderous, insane people who hate life. They stand against the divine experiment on this planet. They hate the Aeonic Mother and everything that is truly and genuinely sacred in the feminine as well as in the masculine dimensions of existence. And they hate the Rome, the magical child of the goddess Sophia. In the process of setting up what I'm going to tell you now, today, I've also pointed out that I consider that the claims that are made about the AI robot, Sophia, parallel in the manner of an apposition, running neck and neck. They parallel the Gnostic teachers' claims about Sophia, the planetary animal mother, the entelechy of the earth itself, of the living earth. For instance, I'll give you 3 quick characteristics. Recall that I said in the course of the investigation that the Aeon Sophia, the mind of the planet, the PSI, if you want to call it that, the PSI field, if you're more comfortable with that language, can scan the human mind, scan the psyche, and even scan your bodies. Well, this is a property attributed to the robot Sophia, isn't it? It can scan the internet, and presumably it's equipped with sensors such as those you see illustrated in science fiction films like Total Recall, and Terminator, where the robotic device can scan the living human animal standing in front of it. Presumably, they're going to tell you soon that the AI robot Sophia has similar capacities. 2, autonomy. This is a totally false claim. It's a total lie. It's a total deceit. That robotic device is not autonomous. It does not think when it moves its head and hesitates upon being asked a question. This is all a fraud. It does not and cannot think independently. But I have said, in parallel to the fraud, that the Aeon Sophia, your planetary mother, your divine mother from the galactic core, has autonomy. The Aeonic mother has agency. As of August of 2016, that is a fact. Autonomy and agency. And the proof of her agency can be seen in the Mandela effect, in her actual manipulation of these artifacts, including material artifacts, such as the metallic emblems of automobile logos. I've explained all this at length. The Aeonic mother has agency. That's the truth. The AI robot Sophia has autonomy. That's the lie. It's come to the point, bear this closely in mind, where the fraud and illusion is starting to mirror the truth, so that actually discerning the fraud and illusion brings your attention to the truth. 3rd point, interactivity. Well, they're presenting Sophia as if it were the ambassador for the transhumanist movement and all the hype about AI and IT, informational technology, right? They're presenting the vaudeville illusion that this robot truly interacts in conversation with people on the stage, on talk shows, at conferences. Total and complete lie. There's a handler behind a screen with a handheld device who is causing Sophia to react and respond. On the other hand, I have explained that the moment has come when a great, magnificent opportunity, call it a challenge if you like, a great, unparalleled, magnificent opportunity faces humanity at large. That is the opportunity to become interactive with the living intelligence of the earth. I call Planetary Tantra, which officially went online in January of 2009, interactive magic with Gaia, interactive magic with the earth. So once again, the truth, the reality, interactivity with the earth is mirrored by the fraud and by the archontic replication. The archontic replication, Sophia, cannot actually deliver on the claims made about it. The proof of truth, the proof of reality versus illusion, is that you can test it, and the moment to test is now. I would not ask you to believe one word I say. I would not ask you to believe it is possible to practice interactive magic with the earth unless I could also give you the opportunity to test that proposition and to prove it is true for yourself. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. That's exactly what I am doing right now, here and now, on January 1st of 2018. I want to emphasize to you today that the Rome, the magical children of the wisdom goddess, cannot be defeated. The greatest threat to the Rome is to be duped into believing that you can be defeated. And that is the primary tactic of the Archons, the Xenosh, the transhumanists, and all of those who are on that bus. Okay? Their ultimate tactic, I swear to you, is bluffing. You see, if I am in a fight with someone, or a potential fight, and I bluff, that can be an extremely effective strategy. Meaning that I persuade or deceive my opponent into believing that I am more powerful than I am, and into believing that they are defeated even before they have had a chance to really oppose me. This is exactly what the enemies of life seek to do. It's all a huge bluff. The transhumanists say certain percent of the workforce will be eliminated by 2020 or 2040. There will be no jobs. Your robots will replace you. AI will exceed human life. What is the message behind all this? What does it all add up to? It all adds up to an enormous bluff. They cannot win by actually delivering on their threat. But they can come close to winning when they convince people that their bluff is true. Every claim that is being made about AI today, coming from the carpetbaggers and carnival barkers who are peddling transhumanism, every one of those claims is a bluff and cannot be fulfilled. They cannot deliver. But they claim that they can deliver. Why? Because it's a display of threat. Now, I have this to say about making threats, and get me real clear on this. What I am going to tell you about threat display is your introduction to Gaian Tantric magic, or Gaian Tantric sorcery, whatever you like. I happen to like the word sorcery. But in the introduction to how to practice the art of Gaian Tantric sorcery, I want to make it perfectly clear to you that I would never make a threat that I couldn't back up. So if I was wandered into a bar somewhere and happened to fall upon some very difficult and aggressive characters standing around the pool table, and they threatened me, and I threatened them back, you can be damn sure that I'm not going to threaten anybody unless I can back up my threat. So I can tell you right now that the transhumanists and the enemies of life, primarily Xenosh with their non-Xenosh accomplices, are threatening you. They are threatening the whole human species with extermination or else enslavement. Remember I said in a previous talk that extermination and enslavement are the two primary goals of the Xenosh and of the master race supremacy agenda, right? The threat is now out in the open, but they in fact cannot back up that threat. Nevertheless, the time has come for a counter threat. The time has come from a threat display of those who wish to protect life, those who wish to take down the Xenosh, take them down and take them out of action. And I mean all the principal players, the known and the unknown, the named and the unnamed. Well, here I am, one single individual talking to you on the internet, and my significance, my role at this particular moment on the first day of 2018 is to be the first individual that exhibits a threat display toward the enemies of life. But that threat display has to be enforceable. Otherwise, I'm just a fraud. So the moment that I show the threat display, which you can see pictured in the illustration that goes with this talk, is also the moment that I tell you, that I tell the whole world, and even the Xenosh, if they happen to be listening, and I'm sure they are, I'll tell you exactly how I'm going to back it up. Because the difference between a true warrior for life, which I call a kalika, a warrior in the party of Kali or Durga, the difference between such a warrior and the enemies of life, such as the Xenosh, is that the Gaian warrior is totally transparent. The Xenosh, the psychopaths who run the planet, are anything but transparent. I think you would agree with that observation. And they must use secrecy, not only to hide what they can actually do, but even more so to conceal the fact that they're just bluffing. And there's a lot that they cannot do, which they would have you believe that they can do, because their success depends in great measure upon faking. But I'm not faking. And I'm not talking about make-believe here. But I don't expect you to take my word for it. It's my responsibility, if I take the role of igniting the signal flare that brings the Rome into direct, violent assault upon the enemies of life, then I have to do it in a way that you can test. And not operating on faith here. And so, there is a method, there is a technique to be used in Gaian tantric magic, specifically designed, if you will, specifically intended for exterminating the enemies of life. If you want to learn more about that, go to the Kalika War Party manifesto. You may recall that in a previous talk on the diamond Sao, I introduced the concept of release from pretending. This concept, indeed, it's not merely a concept, could really be called a process of initiation to be undergone by those who opt into it. It's selective, it's elective, and also the conditions of life itself can bring it upon you. You can be forced into the act of release from pretending when the structures of pretending around your life collapse. I'll give you one clear example of that happening at this moment on the planetary scale. The system of democracy is nothing but an act of pretending that causes people to become convinced that by voting and by electing leaders, they can have some role in the course of society and who runs the world. That's all complete make-believe and pretending. Release from pretending on the planetary scale involves a number of areas or fronts, but certainly one of the principal of those areas is democracy, pretending that social change and defeat of the enemies of life can be brought about through democracy is purely an act of make-believe. You see? The point that I made in that talk about the Diamond Sow that applies right here and now, without going into a digression, is this. As long as you are pretending on any level, in your personal reality, in the way you see the social order, in the way countries operate, in the way government works, in the spiritual and metaphysical features of human reality, no matter where you are pretending, there has to be release from that pretending to get to the true magic. I made this point, okay? Now I'm making it again, and I'm going to raise an objection that I know may arise in the minds of some people. Well, hold on there. Just a moment, Mr. Gnostic teacher, wise ass, arrogant and grandiose character that you are. Hold on a minute. How do I know that this interactive magic with Gaia and this Gaian tantric sorcery that you propose is not just another feat of pretending? How do I know that your magic, Mr. Lash, Gnostic teacher, is not just make-believe and some elaborate, highly intellectualized form of magical thinking? How do I know that, sir? Well, the answer to that, valid question, by the way, an extremely valid objection. And the answer to that is simple. You know it only in one way. You know it in one way and one only. You know that the magic I propose is real when you prove to yourself that it is real. And I'm giving you the chance to do that exercise of proof. There are two conditions for entering into this exercise. I've laid the foundation for those conditions over and over again in my talks on this channel. The first condition is that you recognize who you are as a species and as a specimen of that species. The recognition or self-recognition, properly speaking, of Rome comes in two dimensions at once. It's personal and transpersonal. It's you, a member of the human species, and you, the species itself. You are the species itself in the transpersonal sense, as well as being a particular and limited individual case of the species. That recognition is a bottom line requirement to go where I'm taking you. And that recognition can only be sustained, can only be claimed and sustained within the narrative of the Sophianic vision story. You need a story to tell you who you are. The Sophianic myth of the mysteries, the sacred narrative, tells you that. No other myth that has ever been produced by human imagination tells you that in that way. So, go to the narrative, stay in the narrative, and recognize that you are Rome. And also, I might add, every time that you have that recognition, which is ongoing and escalating in its power, recognize how it generates self-love for you. Self-love. To stand before the earth, recognize her as your divine mother and say to her, yes, I am your child. I am Rome. That is the ultimate statement of self-love possible to the human creature, the human animal. That level of self-love and recognition is a requirement. And as Kali says, as Durga says, be ruthless in self-love. The second requirement is another proposition for which I have laid the foundation over and over again from many different angles. It is a simple and elegant proposition that allows you to experience your own life at a level of imaginative power and self-realization unattainable in any other way. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the proposition that you are not just a biological creature living in the natural womb or matrix of the earth, but you are a character living in the material dream of the earth. The Aeon Sophia is not only embodied in the material elements of the earth, as the Gnostic intel informs us, but she is as well dreaming the narrative of everything that happens on the earth. You are a character in her dream, and your awareness of yourself as Rome is equivalent to a lucid awakening, but it's not a lucid awakening in your own dream. Now, some of you may have experienced lucid dreaming. It's not that uncommon. What happens in that phenomenon? You have a dream, and at a certain point, say you're sitting in a cafe, looking at some people, having a cup of coffee, and suddenly you realize, hey, wait, this is a dream. I'm dreaming that I'm sitting in a cafe, having a cup of coffee, and observing these people. That is called a lucid dream. My message to you, perhaps the supreme message, the supreme wake-up call of the Gnostic teacher is this: you are now lucid in a dream, but it's not your dream that you're lucid in. It's hers. It's the dream of the earth. That's the second requirement for undertaking what I am going to offer, what I am going to demonstrate. I'm not just going to tell you how it works. I'm going to show you. But it so happens that the particular act of Gaian tantric magic that I intend to perform requires a simultaneous disclosure and participation of witnesses in order for it to succeed. Did you get that? There are two aspects, two complementary aspects to the work of magic that I am now introducing. One is the ritual itself, the ritual act of magic, and the other is the disclosure to the world at large of that act. Performance and disclosure come to you simultaneously now, beginning on the first day of 2018. And watch it closely, because I guarantee you this is a blitzkrieg. This is lightning warfare, and it will happen very, very fast. What I'm doing right now, today, is consulting with fellow kalikas in my party, the party of the Nahual. Do you know that term? The Nahual's party, that comes from Carlos Castaneda. Well, Carlos is not here anymore. He wrote 11 books, and that was a long time ago. And you might find reading Carlos Castaneda thrilling and entertaining and instructive and delightful and mystifying and a lot more. But that's all in books. I'm not in a book. You get that? You don't have time to catch up with what I'm doing the way it was back through those 3 decades when many of us read the books of Carlos Castaneda, and Castaneda recounted in each book acts of power and sorcery and the antics and shenanigans of shamanism that he conducted, and everyone reading the books was catching up with him because he described something in the past. Well, it ain't that way now. This is not a book. This is not in the past. This is happening currently as it comes to your ears, your mind, and your attention. Now, right now, as of today, I am forming a sorcerer's party of 16 members, and this is a crack team of Gaian tantric sorcerers around the planet. Some of them are here with me physically, others are in different parts of the world, but we are all united in our practice of Gaian Tantra, which is equivalent to sorcery, to the particular form of interactive magic with the planet that has been possible since the Terma of Gaia awakening in August of 2008. Now, your ears may have been piqued a few moments ago when I pronounced the word violence. And the question may come to your mind, am I going to perform an act of violence? Well, I most certainly am. Yes, a ritual of violence. But in the technicalities and transactions of Gaian sorcery, we characterize this kind of violence in a particular way. It can be called contra-violence. There's a term for you, contra-violence. It can be characterized by the acronym APA, which means in the absence of physical agency. What does that mean? Well, basically it means killing somebody with a death spell without actually having to be in physical contact with the target. That's called APA, or, traditionally speaking, action at a distance. Magic is action at a distance. It's one aspect of it. Magic has many dimensions. It can be sexual as well. It can be poetic. It can be performed and exercised and expressed in many ways. The transactions of Gaian Tantric magic are rich and manifold. But I am talking to you right now, I am declaring to you right now, and announcing to the whole world that I intend to perform a Gaian tantric ritual called courting with the specific aim of killing someone. And I invite you to watch. Is that clear? I am prepared, along with my support team of crack kalikas, I am prepared to be completely transparent about what I'm doing. Due to the particular nature of this particular rite, due to the fact that it is the first of its kind and presents the inceptive model for all future acts of Gaian Tantric sorcery, due to that fact, that very great fact, and other requirements too intricate and subtle to describe, the public disclosure of what I do must accompany simultaneously the performance of the ritual. You know, the transactions of Gaian sorcery, I'm not here, it's too late in the day. Now, unless you're hanging around with me on some occasion, first person, face to face, right? I'm not going to go into this. Intricacies of the transactions of sorcery. But they are not accidental, they are not arbitrary, they are not superficial or foolish. The kind of sorcery that I practice is meticulous and precise. And so, to the extent that I can reveal those meticulous and intricate aspects, I shall do so. So I will describe in detail how the actual physical ritual is performed. Or if you want to see it, go on the Kalika War Party YouTube channel and take a look. It's been on there since December of 2014. That's 3 solid years. Now, in concluding this talk, what do I want to say? Obviously, this is a big moment for me. I've deliberated intensely about what I'm telling you now. I've pondered it, I've examined it for months and months and years on end. Actually, I got the formula and the setup to do this when I got the Terma of Gaia Awakening in 2008. So that's how long I've been sitting on this, over 9 years now. If you listen to the talk that I gave with a video that is posted on this channel, The Union of Shamanism and Gnosticism, you'll hear me talking about the disclosure of the organic light and the description of the properties of the organic light, which was never allowed in the mysteries. It was kept under a vow of silence, not secrecy. It was kept under a vow of silence for particular reasons. So I came forth, the dawn of the 21st century, and broke that vow of silence, and I described the properties of the organic light. And in that talk, at a couple of points, I refer to the intense deliberations that I made before doing that, considering what the consequences would be. Well, likewise, the deliberations that I have made prior to telling you what I'm telling you now have been long and intense. But the moment has come to demonstrate before the world at large how Gaian Tantric sorcery actually works. And this is the true magic, not the magic of the pretenders, not fantastic entertainment about witches and warlocks and wizards. No, that entertainment is really a kind of counter magic to the power that I am now prepared to demonstrate with you, and as far as possible to share with you. For the success of this spell I am casting, the odds of success are improved by your participation, and I'm going to tell you exactly how to participate. Now, the way it is performed, the way I perform it by myself out in nature, and the way that the 16 kalikas in my crack team support me is one thing. That is one activity, one coherent, focused, intentional activity. But equally so, the way you follow my disclosure of that activity and the way that you participate is part of the dynamic. And its success depends on the dual dynamic of performance and simultaneous disclosure of performance. Is that clear? So I'm going to leave you with that at this moment. I'm going to reiterate to you, I'm going to implore you, let me implore you that you realize that I am exhibiting threat display. I am threatening to kill. And the threat to kill that I am stating publicly now has to be tested and proven in one particular case. Once that is done, the method used to do so becomes universally available. You know, the tragic thing about the human condition today is that there are so many good and decent people who have woken up to the game of the predators and the parasites, the Xenosh and all of their disguises. They've woken up to the deceit, the lies, the fraud. And these good and decent people, who may in some degree or other recognize themselves as Rome, although I stress they need the narrative for that recognition, these good and decent people want to do something. But they can't do anything, so they go into pretending. And they pretend that, first of all, just knowing, just the awareness of what the perpetrators are doing is enough to stop them. No, it's not. It's not. You're in make-believe if you believe that. Then they pretend, oh, well, we can get in the right leaders. We can get out the corrupt leaders. We can drain the swamp and elect the right people who will correct the system. Make-believe, pretending, never going to happen. If you are following my notion of apposition, if you are following my elucidation of the way that the fraud and deceit on the planet now begins to mirror the truth, then you will realize that since the end of October 2017, over the past few months, there's been a massive amount of chatter on the alternative media about the deep state being taken down, hasn't there? There's been the QAnon phenomena on 4chan. Thousands of people, thousands of sincere independent investigators chiming in and saying, wow, it's really happening. There are 10,000 indictments out there. Trump is taking down the deep state. Oh, look at what he's doing. Oh, the man is on fire. It's absolutely incredible. The Clintons are at Guantanamo Bay in prison. This is all make-believe. But it's understandable. It's understandable that people would engage in that make-believe as long as they are powerless to act directly and to directly reach the predators. How can you directly reach the predators? How can you, or any ordinary human being, get to these evil people? I'm telling you, you do it through magic. Maybe you don't believe me. Fine. Maybe you want to sign off at this point. Fine. Maybe you think I'm just offering my form of make-believe. Fine. I don't really give a damn. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm prepared to give you exact instructions, and you better follow these instructions to the letter, because Gaian Tantric magic is extremely meticulous and precise, but also extremely simple. There is actually a handheld device for performing this magic. There is an app. What's coming next is the app, and with the app comes the command prompt. C:\\. Now what follows the backslash? What follows the backslash in computer coding? The command. For instance, C:\print. Give that command to the computer. It instructs the printer to print. So what is the command in the case of this unique inceptive example? You are now, January 1st, 2018, looking at the inception of Gaian Tantric magic. And what is the syntax that goes into the command prompt? C:\kill. Now you may wonder, I would strongly advise you to wonder why it would so happen that the first genuine and demonstrable act of Gaian sorcery performed before the eyes of the world with the participation of those who care and dare to engage, why that would be a lethal act and not something else. I assure you that it can be proven in the course of your own life through your intention, your passions, your self-love, and your love for the earth. It can be proven that the Gaian Tantric magic that I'm introducing can do all kinds of magic. There are all kinds of magic commands that could follow the backslash. So why start with C:\kill? Why does it have to start with that? With that particular demonstration of lethal force? I'll leave you with that question, and I'll come back to it immediately in the next talk. And until then, heed the obvious and hold to correction. There's your best chance for a future worth living.